Hello, I'm Drake. Welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible change in your life. This week we're going to be talking about a popularly requested topic, Norse Magic. So stay tuned. Okay, we've been getting a lot of requests to do a series or even a video or more on Norse Magic. And honestly, since we released the Hell and the Odin video last year, I really had planned on doing it. And we just got lost in other things. So, I'm actually going to get that series started. And I wanted to start with a basic introduction to Norse Magic, okay? Now, one thing we need to get clear off the bat. We have no actual records that I am aware of how traditional, actual Norse practiced their magic. The only records that we have come from the Voluspa and the Poetic Eddas. And the Poetic Eddas is sometimes often referred to as the Elder Eddas. And we do have a few accounts in Snorri Sturluson's Prose Eddas, which is sometimes also referred to as the Younger Eddas. Some people will use Snorri's work, some people won't. And the main reason is Snorri Sturluson was of himself a Christian, and therefore his works are heavily influenced and have been altered to match the belief systems in some ways. So when you read the Poetic Eddas and the Prose Eddas, you'll notice there's a very different feel to them. And you'll notice the characters don't line up exactly right. Now the Poetic Eddas is contained within a very old book referred to as the Codex Regius. And most of the translations that we have for the Eddas comes from that, as well as the Voluspa. So with that said, we have to understand that anytime we approach Norse magic, it is from a reconstructed standpoint. So you are going to find varying theories in how it was practiced. So one thing is, during my path workings with the Norse, I found out I worked directly with the entities to try and find out how they wanted me to practice. And everything they taught me deviated drastically from what I knew in any other system prior. But it worked. So that is the viewpoint in which I'm going to be presenting information on this channel. Now, what I was taught was very practical, it was very useful, and it created great manifestations. So yes, you will find certain things in books and whatnot that are different or may line up with what I'm saying. But do realize we are working with a reconstructed magical system here. In some books you will hear about a ritual called the Hammer Rite. That is a very, very modern rite that I believe originated in maybe the 70s or even later. And there is no history for its use prior to that at all. Now that's not to say it's not a good ritual. It's a very good ritual. It does indeed call in the energies that we're looking for. It works very well with the Norse current. I use it often myself, though not all the time. And that is a ritual that we will be covering on this channel very soon. But that's another video. So, what I want to talk about here is the basis of Norse magic and the framework. Now, most people will say that Norse magic can be broken into two major categories. Runic magic and seed magic, or satyr magic, or satyr magic. I've heard it pronounced a lot of ways. I most commonly pronounce it seed. So if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I do apologize. Now, the two main deities that are associated with these two forms of magic are Odin and Freya. Odin was the master of the runes. Freya was the master of seed magic. However, in lore, Freya taught Odin seed magic, and in exchange, Odin taught her mastery of rune magic. Which is why you hear so much about them when we discuss magic. There is a third category in Norse magic that actually overlaps the two of them, and this is the reason why some people only consider two categories. because they think this may be part of one of the other two. And I would agree. I think it's part of both of them, and I also think it's the connecting bridge to the overall concept of Norse magic. And that is Understaffed magic. And I know I'm pronouncing that one wrong. I apologize. I've tried and tried, and I practiced it for at least 12 cuts here. And I get tongue-tied every time. And Understaffed magic is essentially signs, symbols, or sigils that often look like compass rose to a lot of people. And they're very artistically designed, but honestly not all of them is compass rolls. Some of them will be long and straight. Some of them will look like towers. They run the gamut. And we'll have to do a whole video on them, which we will. We're going to be doing a video on all these. And in a lot of ways, these kind of work like sigils, though they do differ in ways. They have very specific purposes. So there's a lot left for the magician to interpret on these. But there are a lot of these that have been found and their uses possibly deciphered. And we will be sharing some of those here on this channel and going into how to exactly use those. But yeah, Understaffed magic was kind of like the sigil style magic of the Norse. It was using symbols of various kinds. And they looked very shamanic in nature. Now, seed magic actually is often referred to as Norse Shamanism. It is a type of magic where one dives into the other worlds and into the web of the weird and actually changes reality to suit the practitioner's needs and actually guide fate to the direction they want to go or to manifest what they want. So they work very heavy in deep trance and journey work. And because of this, it is actually viewed very similar as to shamanic journeying. And of course, Rune Magic utilizes the runes. Most people will work with the Elder Futhark, which is 24 runes, though many practitioners are utilizing what's known as the Younger Futhark, which has about 18 runes in it, I believe. Myself, I work with the Elder Futhark, so I'm not as familiar with the Younger Futhark, though I am planning to do some research on it so that I can cover it in a video for you all. Now, in Rune Magic, you have both the symbol of the rune contains power, the name of the rune contains power, the way the runes are carved, the way they're utilized. All these different things can alter the power of the runes. And you can even intone them or sing them and chant them, which is in itself used in many spells. And that type of magic is also referred to as Gulder. And voice and spoken word had a special place in Norse society and was very powerful from what we can tell. The runes were also used for divinations. Though we don't exactly know how, we do know that they were cast in lots is really about the best it ever says about it. Now, to this, some people will say the only way to read the runes is to do a full rune casting, where you would cast all the runes out and you would decipher the runes as they lay. However, people have started using the runes by using spreads, very similar to like you would see with tarot decks, and they get tremendous results. So I would actually argue that both ways of utilizing these runes is correct, because ultimately runic divinations is about speaking to those runes and listening to them and interpreting them. And we'll get into that more in another video as well. Now, the web of the weird. I've mentioned that several times, and you're probably thinking I'm high. What am I talking about? The web of the weird is essentially the entire fabric of reality and how energy and existence is woven together to create what we know as reality here, as well as the reality of everything in the multiverse. So when you dive into this web, you're literally altering the very fabric, the very weave of reality. And it's a tremendously amazing form of magic. And now this web is responsible for everything that happens. So think about it. We talk about how our path in life is going. Well, think of your path in life as the threads in that tapestry moving along with all the other threads. So In Norse magic, the concept is you deviate the thread to change where it's going and change the picture in the tapestry to manifest the exact destiny you want. Now, the web of the weird is really one of those topics that can be philosophically debated forever. Do think of it as all of creation, all that is within existence, and all the multiverse, and even all that is outside of existence, if you can wrap your head around that. Now, that is ultimately the basis of Norse magic. The magic in and of itself is to alter the web of the weird and to create and change your path, your destiny, and take control of it so that you can manifest the life that you want. However, there are two concepts in Norse mythology or Norse magic that I do believe we should talk about at the very least. And I know I'm going to mispronounce these as well, so I apologize. I'll do the best I can. The first one is Humminga. And what that is, that's your spirit body. That's your energetic body, your essence that enters the vessel upon the beginning of your life. And this is often viewed as both stored luck and blessings. So your ancestors, how they lived their lives, how you've lived in your past lives, it all comes down to build up that spiritual body and all this Humminga that you have. And it actually, the older souls will actually have less of this, whereas younger souls will have more of it. And the general ideal is the younger soul, well, they're not as smart, they're not as wise, they don't have the experience. So they need far more luck. They need that dumb luck. They need the blessings to help them get through their trials and tribulations to build themselves up. Which brings us to the next term. Magan. And I know I'm pronouncing that one wrong too. I almost didn't include these because I know I'm going to horribly pronounce them. Magan. And this is how you act. This is also how your ancestors act. But it is about how, mainly and primarily, it's about you. This is what you do in your life. This is the type of energy that you build up through your actions and how you live your life. How you live honorably. How you look after friends. How you keep your word. How you handle your responsibilities in your work. How you live a good life. How do you help your community? How do you help others? How do you deal with people who are actually in the wrong? Do you stand up for that which is right? All these concepts actually boil down into building this up. Now, for the practitioner of magic in Norse magic, it also matters in how you deal with the spirits and the entities more than anything. So as you work with the entities within Norse mythology, the Vanir, the Asir, the Jotuns, even the sons and daughters of Surt, the light elves, the dark elves, it doesn't matter. How you treat all of them really makes a difference. You should always treat them with respect. You should always be hospitable. And when the time comes, if something does happen, you should stand strong, firm, and brave. Though honestly, if you're dealing with these entities with respect, I've never had that happen. And I've been working with these entities now for 10 years or more. I know there's people who's been practicing with these entities far longer than me, so they've probably had a different experience. But I myself have never had an issue as long as I treated them with respect. Now, if you make a promise, keep it. That is a big deal to them. That is a major big deal to them. Don't break your promise. And pact work actually works very different amongst the Norse culture, or I should say these Norse entities. When you enter into a pact with them, it will work slightly different. And that's something we may have to do a video on. But think of it as you're making a promise to them, and you are expected to keep it. The oath breakers were the lowest of the low in Norse culture. So keep that in mind and try to act in an honorable way. When it comes to Norse magic, one of the things I do recommend you do is, if at the very least, you read the Havamal, which is supposedly a collection of wisdoms by Odin. It'll give you a very good idea of how to approach life, how to approach these entities, how they viewed things. But if you honestly want to practice Norse magic, then I do recommend that you read the Voluspa and the Poetic Eddas. And I will make sure that there's 2 affiliate links to a copy of the Voluspa, the Havamal, and the Poetic Eddas. Now, the Havamal is included in the Voluspa, but the one I'm going to link has a much more in-depth translation. And all of these are hands down the best translations of these texts that I have found in all my years. And the author, I believe it's Jackson Crawford, he does a really great job of going in and telling why he translated things the way he did and really explaining his reasonings. Seriously, they are the best translations. But I do recommend that you read these and study them, because these are the texts in which this magic is drawn from. And understanding the culture, understanding the people, really will help you connect to the magic. Because one of the big factors in Norse magic that really caught me, that really drew me in, is there is a distinct element of ancestor worship. But it's not ancestor. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean if you're genetically or bloodline, you don't have Norse heritage, you can't do this. No. To the contrary, the Norse culture, their ancestors were more than bloodlines. They were also friends or adopted family. These were people that were very, very important and cared for. And those people also make up the ancestral line. So when you start working with these entities and you start building those friendships, you become a part of that ancestral line. Now, I know there's a lot of people who may jump my case at that concept and that statement, and I apologize. But hands down, that is what I have found every time. And I've worked with several other practitioners who have had the same thing. In fact, if you look at Odin and Loki, they are blood brothers in the sense that they have made a bond of friendship to join in family, not necessarily actually in bloodline. They are not genetically related, but they still are blood brothers and family, and therefore part of that same ancestry. So, yeah, as you build those relationships, you're going to notice you're going to be able to go deeper and deeper into the mysteries and how the Norse works. And you're going to be able to journey deeper into the 9 realms and into the web of the weird. And it's a fascinating practice. It is definitely one of spellcraft. It is definitely one of journey work. And you can even utilize evocation within this practice. Anyways, this has just been a brief introduction to some of the concepts that are in Norse magic. And I am going to continue this series. We're going to go into detail on more things. Rune magic, seed magic, the hammer rite. We're going to be presenting all that coming up soon. So if you haven't already, be sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you click the notification bell so that you're notified anytime we release a new video. We got lots of content coming. Also, if you want to help support the channel and the work we do to get information out to seekers, we do now have a Patreon. There's a link below. We have 3 different tiers. Every tier has a lot of bonuses: early access to classes when they go up to the online school, constant updates for me, what's going on, what we got coming up. Sometimes a blooper reel gets posted. And for tier 3, there's a sectioned off private tier 3 only live stream. As well as in tier 2, you're included into a monthly spell working that I do for all my patrons. So with that said, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.